Hello, viewers, and welcome to yet another episode of IIT India's Walk the Tech Talk series, Season 2, in association with India Automated. In case you have missed out on any of our previous episodes or episodes of the Season 1 of Walk the Tech Talk series, then please do check them out on IIT India's YouTube channel. Before we begin today's episode, and I bring on stage your host for this series, Mr. Pranjal Sharma, the author of India Automated, I'm just going to take a minute to tell you a little bit about IIT. The Institution of Engineering and Technology is a professional society for engineers and one of the largest and oldest global organization. It is turning 150 this year. What you will see on the screen now is what the world of IIT India has to offer. So in case you want to become a member of the IIT, then all that you will need to do is send us an email at indiamembership@theiit.in or simply scan the QR code that appears on your screen. Now, without further delay, I would like to call on stage Mr. Pranjal Sharma, the author of India Automated and the host for this season. Hi, Pranjal.
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for this episode.
Thank you so much for being here again. Without further delay, I am just going to leave the stage for you to introduce our topic of discussion and also our guest speaker today. So I am going to be away and I call on stage our speaker for today.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining in for yet another edition of Walk the Tech Talk with IIT and India Automated. And joining us today, and our guest is Siraj Chaudhary, who is the MD and CEO of NCML. Siraj, I hope you can join us and see us. Hi, Siraj. Great that you could join us today.
Hi, good morning, Pranjal. Pleasure to be with you once again.
So, Siraj, quickly, if you could just begin this conversation and tell us a little bit about NCML. You're doing a lot of work in the agriculture at your own career, which is, several decades. But what does NCML do? If you can give a quick introduction.
Pranjal, NCML is a post-harvest agri-services company which has been in existence for the past 16 years. For the last 5 years, it's largely owned by Fairfax, which is a Canadian fund, and that has been the owner of this company. We are engaged in multiple activities which serve agriculture, largely in the post-harvest stage, which goes from storing the produce, testing it, predicting the weather, and providing inputs to governments on our assessment of the weather. We have what you call the automatic weather stations, which keep track of the conditions for farming, as well as supply chain financing, and an NBFC which supports small traders financially in terms of meeting their working capital needs.
So that's quite an exciting range, Siraj. I think the main issue we'd like to understand is, agriculture is seen as still not being as modern as it should be, while some level of mechanization has happened. Can you give us a sense of what is the range of technologies which are being used in India across the various dimensions of agriculture? From prediction of crop patterns to the final use to the consumer. What are the various technologies in use already?
So, incidentally, Pranjal, a couple of days ago, ITC celebrated 20 years of launching the eChaupal, which was, I think, the first initiative of bringing technology in any form to agriculture. What we have seen over the years is that there is technology which has been introduced in the pre-harvest stage, which is from study of soil to more precise delivery of inputs to keeping the fertilizer usage under control, the water usage. So essentially, better usage of resources have been possible through use of technology, as well as keeping the farmer educated. Now, this is not as widespread as it could have been, because Indian agriculture is extremely diverse and very fragmented. So the initiatives that have been taken have been more localized rather than general and spread across the country.
So, what kind of technology is being used? So, for example, you mentioned automated weather stations in procurement. What exactly is it? IoT? Is it a combination of artificial intelligence and data science? So, what kinds of technologies are being used?
So all of these actually, Pranjal. So the automatic weather stations actually help the insurance companies to determine the weather conditions while the crop was growing. So when they have to pay out the farmers for any crop loss, it helps ascertain where what weather variations happen during a period of the crop growth of the crop, and that helps them improve their calculations for the payouts. It helps the farmers. It's a valid data point to sort of assess the loss rather than taking hearsay or anecdotal evidences. But more importantly, where the technology has come in, and it's still very basic, I would say that there are more startups coming in now, ag tech companies coming in, which are actually providing more inputs to the farmers, but it's still at a very small stage. It is a lot of it is still at the trial stage. But where technology is beginning to make a difference, and I see a lot of potential, is in the post-harvest space, where if you go in the traditional form in which agriculture produce was sold, the farmer kind of took his produce to the market yard which was closest to him and put his produce for sale there, where people would come and take a physical look at that crop, and there would be a price discovery mechanism based on the number of players present in that market yard. Now, with technology, this activity can actually be taken onto a much wider platform. So the farmers' demand for farmers' produce is not just restricted to the market yard that he's going to, but to the whole country, actually, if it's sort of so needed. So there are efforts. I mean, at NCML, we have an e-market yard platform, and where we have tried it this year. And this year is actually quite remarkable, and I would say a watershed year in where the opportunities have been opened up for technology to step in, particularly with the new reforms that have been introduced in agriculture in the last 1 month or so, which will open up a lot of opportunities for people to actually connect with the farmers in a manner which they were not allowed to so far. And that will facilitate more technology to come in, particularly to aid the farmer in price discovery and having access to buyers over a wider geographic range. But for the buyers, with technology being introduced today, they have, the uncertainty. You and I would have to buy a product which we cannot see and feel and know the quality of. Today, like at NCML, we have the ability to test, demonstrate the quality of the produce that the farmer has brought to the platform, to the customers, and they can actually, without being physically in proximity to the produce, assess the quality of it and put up a price, and where there is an auction and the best buyer wins it. More importantly, all these transactions come with the condition that the payment to the farmer has to be transferred immediately. In the past, the farmer could have had to run around for his money from his local commission agent or whatever. So these are very basic technologies, frankly speaking, if you look at the other spaces where technology has intervened. But I think given the level of education and the comfort that the farmer has, this is a good beginning. And one point I would want to add here is that over the years, the average age of the Indian farmer is going up, which is largely because the younger generation is not coming into to agriculture or farming, which means that you have an older generation to deal with when educating them with technology. And that, I think, to a certain extent, slows down the progress. I mean, to explain technology to a 50-year-old farmer is much tougher than explaining it to a 25-year-old farmer.
That's a great point, Siraj. Technology started with basic SMS updates. Now I understand, as you said, apart from automated weather stations, you also are using drones to understand crop patterns. You can use images for that. There is also soil sensors, which are very active. But do you think the use of technology can basically bring back some of the younger people into the system, because they would be more comfortable with something across the entire value chain? It's not just post harvest, but even in the logistics space.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm very optimistic that this may be the tool or the vehicle to bring more people back into agriculture, and we are seeing some of that. I mean, we are seeing it, though I would say at a more exotic level, where you see a lot of professionals stepping back and going into villages and trying, hydroponics or vertical farming, or farming for various exotic fruits and vegetables, which is a good sign. However, what we need is the masses, the large chunk of the typical Indian farmer adapting technology, and his children actually being comfortable. I mean, today, or in fact, if we go back in history, farming was seen as an extremely laborious and risk-entailing occupation, which our effort has to be to reduce the pain as well as reduce the risk. And I think technology can enable both those aspects. And if that happens on a large scale, more and more people may be encouraged to stay back and be part of the rural economy than the surge that we've seen over the years of migration to urban areas. And I think what is happening currently with COVID may actually change that trend, and that I would say the hesitancy that existed may actually be removed or reduced with this current situation, and people may be forced to look for better occupations in rural areas.
So final question, Siraj, and a quick answer on that. So very clearly said, there needs to be skilling done at scale and also expansion of the technology at scale. How can this be done? What is the role of private sector and what is the role of the government? Because it's a fragmented sector, but even states are all moving at different levels.
This, as I said earlier, Pranjal, that a lot of it is being done at a very localized level. Great innovations, solutions created in certain areas, whether it was about, hiring or leasing of equipment, the whole concept of Uberization of agri equipment and all that. But I think the biggest thing that will work is the concept of partnership. It is really how quickly companies which are localized can connect with each other, and obviously the government taking the initiative. It will require further streamlining of the regulations, because agriculture to a large extent has been significantly regulated at the state level, and there have been issues of it being a state subject rather than a central subject. And so some of those regulatory barriers or hurdles have to be taken care of. But I think from a private sector perspective, there has to be a greater sense of partnership, where rather than everyone trying to do all by themselves, it would be good if there's a combination of companies with access to or with technology to improve soil condition, to predicting what to grow, to better utilization of inputs, or more sort of scientific application of inputs, to better storage, to price discovery, and then delivery. There could be 5 companies who could partner in all these activities with their specialization, rather than one company trying to do everything. And I think that would enable a greater spread of this, as well as more specialization, and therefore more discovery of opportunities for improvement.
Thank you, Siraj. That's wonderful to know, and I hope that with the contribution and the leadership shown by both you as well as NCML, we will see a really strong revolution of agriculture being transformed by technology. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Pranjal. Lovely speaking to you.